Hi. This week I wanted to do a little thing where we maybe sit, have some tea, and just chat. So I wanted to talk about some crochet that I did, and I thought maybe I could talk about the process of doing it, some of the research I did, and things like that. So to start with, the crochet I did was I made some mini versions of these characters, Roger and James, from the game We Happy Few. These characters are adorable, so I decided to make them. This is James. Little James with his little hat and his glasses, and this one is Roger, or Pup and Moo, as they call each other. So made these. I made their hats like ages ago. The hats I made out of felt. I've got, can't see, but she's up in there. Actually, I'll go get her. I have another, an original character I made, who I will talk about in another video one time when I'm ready to talk about these. An original character I made. Her name is Winnie. She's a Reaper. But I made a little beret for her out of some felt. So what I did with Roger and James was I traced the beret from Winnie and made them for Roger and James. Weirdly though, it didn't turn inside out the way I wanted, so I just did some blanket stitching around the edge to give it a little fancy trim, and then I put some navy blue binding around the edge, because if you look at the actual hats, they have a little navy blue brim. So yeah, I used, like I said, some white felt and some navy blue felt to make their jackets. I got the felt from Daiso, the little shop. So yeah, the buttons on their jackets are made with little gold beads, because they were buttons smallest that I could find. They were the smallest buttons I could find. I can't talk. I made them basically the same way I make all my crochet minis, which is simple little like legs, torso, arms, face. For this one though, because their shirts are striped in the game, so what I did was I striped from about the waist upwards, so it would be like one line of navy blue, one line of white, and so on until I got to the top. And the top is actually supposed to be white, but because I made James first, so for James kind of got that a bit wrong and had to do 2 rows in white, so it doesn't look quite right. But I like how they turned out. They're very good. They look very much like their, like this is James, for example. They look very much like their characters that they're supposed to look like. There's Roger. And the We Happy Few wiki actually told me the colours of their eyes. So I've got this little box that's full of little buttons that I use for my crochet eyes. And I've got some buttons that I got from Spotlight. They were expensive buttons. But I've got some green ones that I made from when I made a mini antiseptic eye. And then with these ones, I just took some grey buttons and coloured them in with a blue Sharpie to get blue eyes. The biggest problem I had was making the masks, because in the game, the masks on the face, they're silicone in the game, but on the face they're very malleable. They conform to how the person is looking, but when they take the masks off, they sit so solidly, and it was so tricky for me to find the right fabric and form to make the mask, because like I don't make faces in my crochet minis, they just have eyes and maybe some facial hair. So it was so tricky for me to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this mask? I ended up going with felt, and then I just did the outline of the mask with some craft wire. which kind of kept the shape the best way, but also had the malleability of the silicone shape of the mask, if that makes sense. And then, because it'd be really hard to cut like eye holes that were big enough, like I did it for Roger and it didn't turn out very good. So instead I just cut little slits where the eyes would go, and then I can feed the eyes through. And then you can kind of take the mask off if you want, but I don't want to take the masks off because Roger and James never take their mask off. In the entirety of the game, they never took their mask off. I think because they're in the game, they kind of work for the government, so kind of can't take your mask off. If you take your mask off, then I should probably talk about what the game is about. That'd be smart. We Happy Few is a game that I love. Well, I love watching it. I haven't actually played it. It came out in 2018, and it's set in a alternate universe where the Nazis won World War II. So the game is set in Britain, in a place called Wellington Wells, in the 60s. And the main lore of the game is that people are now taking these joy pills that will make you forget all the bad stuff that's happened, and then you can pretend that everything is good. But the first protagonist of the game, Arthur, who I will make it later, Arthur finds out that Arthur stops taking his joy. He's working for a newspaper company and he's censoring paper articles. And he finds this article talking about his brother and himself winning a competition, and then he remembers this time when they were kids where he let his brother be taken onto a train to go to Germany. And that's how he remembers, and then he stops taking his joy and realizes the world is not actually as bright and colourful as it is. And he's got to go through all these quests and things so he can get out of Wellington Wells and into the real world. And so that's basically how the game goes. You're going onto these quests to get these items so that you can then get out of Wellington Wells and out of the whole area. At one point in the game, Arthur goes to visit Dr. Faraday, who works on the gates and things. She does the electronics and stuff. And that's where you meet Roger and James. They work for Dr. Faraday. But yeah, the game is really fun. The story is good. The only problem We Happy Few had was that it was rushed into completion and therefore it's a bit buggy. But I still like the game. The story is really great. I'll try to put a playlist. I think actually the card is over here. I'll try to put a playlist up there of someone who's played the game, so that you can watch it and enjoy it. And yeah, I hope one day I get to play it myself because it'll be really fun. But yeah, then after the game came out, I think the following year they came out with the downloadable content of They Came From Below, which was a story that just focused on Roger and James. And in that story, Dr. Faraday has disappeared, and we kind of know that she disappears because she disappeared during Arthur's story. But Dr. Faraday's disappeared, and these two are going to try to find her. And they end up going underground, where they find this giant robot civilization, and all the robots are sentient and things, and the robots are trying to kill them. And then they find out that the robots aren't actually trying to kill them, the robots are kind of like aliens, and they were trying to figure out if Earth was worth saving, sort of thing. A lot of the quest titles come from like your sci-fi books, like you had like, there was one for War of the Worlds and things like that. I think there was also one for Time Machine. But it was really good. There's a really heartfelt bit at the end that I'm not going to spoil, but it was so sweet. I almost cried. If you can't tell, or maybe if I haven't been quite clear enough, Roger and James are a couple. So, yeah. It's really sweet to see how they interact. Like, just call each other Pup and Moo all the time, and it's really cute. So, yeah. So that's We Happy Few. That's as much of We Happy Few as I'm going to tell you without spoiling the entire game. because it's a really good game and I really like it, and I discovered someone played the entire game and all the DLCs, and since then I have been obsessed with the game. That is definitely my own fault, and I am not guilty or remorseful of that at all, because I really did love the game when it came out. I was just upset no one ever continued playing it because it was so buggy. Yeah. Yeah, so that's Roger and James. Their little blazes I just made using a simple pattern that I've been using to make all my minis blazes. Only issue was it was a bit big, so what I did was I did some stitching in the back, which you can't see. I did some stitching in the back to kind of cinch it in a bit. Yeah, I stitched the hats onto them because A, I didn't have enough brown wool for all of Roger's head, and B, they wouldn't stay on otherwise. So yeah, that's Roger and James. I enjoyed talking about how I made these. I know this video is a bit all over the place. I'm sorry. My brain isn't working. I had all these things I wanted to say and then completely forgot everything I wanted to say. So that's great. I might actually end up putting this video up before the Peggy dress, just because the Peggy dress has run into some problems and I will need to fix that. So this might go up a week earlier than I thought it would because the Peggy dress isn't finished. So yeah, if not, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing next month because it is the start of February when I'm filming this. So yeah, I definitely think I'm going to be making a dress in March, like a Regency era dress. I'll be discussing something. There is a movie or musical I was going to discuss. Oh, Moulin Rouge, that's the one. Maybe I'll talk about one of my works in progress, one of my original stories that I'm working on. Yeah, so that's kind of the plan for next month. I might do these like tea time type videos at the end of the month because I can just sit and talk. If you like that, please let me know and I will make sure that I schedule a little tea time video every month where I can just sit, have some tea, chat to you about something. Like today it was crochet, maybe next month it'll be something else, maybe like talking about movies or a book I'm reading currently or something. So yeah, if you're doing any craft projects, let me know. I'd like to hear what you guys are doing. Or reading. That'd be fun too. Yeah. So, yeah. I will see you next week, and have a good day. Bye.